Howdy, and welcome to LeeReads, where I talk about the books I've been reading and enjoying lately. Let's talk about the books that I read in March. I'm getting over a little bit of a head cold, and because of that head cold, I actually spent a lot of time resting and not necessarily reading. Though I do have to say, audiobooks really helped keep me going this month. I listened to two of them. The first one is Lair of Dreams by LeeReads. It's quite a hefty book. This is the second book in the Diviners series by the same author, which is following a group of young adults in 1920s New York City and slowly exploring these different, really kind of subtle abilities they have. But it's not in a getting the band together superhero sort of way. The first book, The Diviners, brings a couple of the main characters together as we are faced with this occult murder mystery that they get involved with. And the sequel of the story builds upon that as some other kind of supernatural, horrible thing is going on in the city. And we are getting to know a few additional characters a lot better, as well as still following with the main characters that we met in the first book. I liked this edition. There's a sleeping sickness going through the city that has to do with this spirit that kind of entices people into this wonderful, good dream and then traps them there so they can't ever wake up. And I really liked how it interwove with some of the Dreamwalker diviners and were teased with the first book, and how it interweaves with their personal plots. So even though this took more of a focus on some characters that were secondary or even a tertiary character in the first book, each book is building, and you can feel like it's building towards something, and I want to see where it goes with all these characters. Now in the first book, the diviners were a secret thing, and in the second book there's more public knowledge about people with these abilities. And now everyone's kind of jumping on the diviner craze, which I think fits in with 1920s like table knocking. So I like how the history of the era is being woven into the story as well. So I continue to enjoy the series, and there's two more books to go. The other audiobook was by Adrian Tchaikovsky, Dogs of War. This is following the main character Rex, who is a dog soldier hybrid. So they took these dog foundation tissues and kind of built them up into a super soldier that has kind of some humanized parts, but not really. And in Rex's squad, it is a special squad with a couple different species of special soldier. Without revealing too much, it follows their journey as their mission and mission objective changes, and explores how that impacts not only them, but society and how society views these creatures. Not just what does it mean to be a human or sentient and have rights, but also to do with computers, other artificial intelligences. Has a wider theme and discussion, and yet I still got quite attached to Rex. You meet Rex, I am Rex, I am a good dog. That's what he wants to be, but he starts to wrestle with, what does being a good dog mean? And what do I do when there's no master to tell me that I'm being a good dog or a bad dog? How do I make decisions? And that sounds really simplistic, but it really stuck with me, and I really enjoyed Rex a lot. There's a second book in this duology, I guess, and it may not follow Rex. I'm not sure. It may follow another character from his squad. But yet again, another Adrian Tchaikovsky that I enjoyed. I am Rex. I am a good dog. It just, one of those things that's going to live in my head for a long time, kind of like, we're going on an adventure from Children of Ruin and Children of Memory. We're going on an adventure. But it's really hard to explain that to people who haven't read the books. Next, I read a novella, What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher, which is the sequel to What Moves the Dead. Kind of a sequel, more episodic continuation. It's following the same main character that we met in What Moves the Dead and has some of the same side characters, but they've moved on to a new location. They've gone home, and their home is apparently haunted, and they are trying to figure out what is going on and how to set things to rights. So where the first one was a lot more biological, zombie-ish, this one is a lot more supernatural, and I did enjoy it. I read an anticipated new release of what I discovered was a very dark adult fantasy, The Bride of Death. And you would think with that title that I would have known it was going to be dark, but it is quite dark. This one is comped as a twist of Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and the writing style kind of a person being able to touch the spirit world of Catherine Arden, like in her Bear and the Nightingale trilogy, which I do think is true, but I do think it became its own story. I have a more in-depth reading vlog for this one. I really didn't expect that it was going to get as dark as it did. The way that the underworld was presented was quite interesting and made me kind of wrestle with the characters. It didn't necessarily go the way that I wanted it to go, but I think that people will still enjoy this story, and it's worth picking up if you like Catherine Arden or Naomi Novik. Then last, I read an eARC of a story that wasn't as much of a hit for me, A Feather So Black, which is an adult romantasy that I was excited about because of the mythic origin, like a person who was a changeling that is now going back into the Fae world on a mission for like their human parent. But I found the romance part kind of insta-lovey and unsatisfying. For me, there really has to be some depth to connection, and it wasn't even like it was because there was an instant attraction, so much heat, and it became more spicy than emotional, because that wasn't really present in the story either. Where the story was a lot stronger was with the main character's personal struggle, where she is in this position in the human world. She knows she's not human. She was the changeling, and her whole life she's been compared to the princess whose place she's taking. The princess, the real princess of the realm, is in the Fae world. She's best friends with the prince who was betrothed to that princess, and now the two of them are going on this dangerous mission to rescue her, to bring the princess back. But the princess has been growing up with her own ideas and plans, and so that sort of conflict was really interesting to me. But the romantasy side of the story, it didn't work for me so much. But I would recommend it if you like that sort of main character. She's like an outcast, struggling with her place and willing to do the hard job because of kind of her own self-talk and how she looks at herself and how she grows through that. So I think this was a complicated character. I'm sorry if that was rambling and incoherent. I'm still getting over being sick. I started the book expecting that it was going to be something different, and I just didn't jive with it as much because it wanted me to focus on something that I felt like the author hadn't given enough attention and hadn't built up enough. So that one fell a little bit flat for me. I might be forgetting something, but I don't have anything else that I have finished in the month of March to talk about. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoy it. Happy spring. And I also want to mention March marks my BookTube birthday. I think this is my 3rd complete year on BookTube. So happy birthday to the channel. As always, don't forget to support your local library.